How are you? You alright? Doing alright? I'm doing alright. Doing alright. So, I'm going to read you another chapter of my book. Now, there have been some changes. I've been working on the entire book series. So, part of that has meant that I've had to rename this book. So, it's not Pixie Star and the Pocket Watch of Doom. It's just The Pocket Watch of Doom, without the Pixie Star bit. So, I'm gonna release a new print, and part of what I've been doing has been I've been turning all of the illustrations colour. So I've been colouring them in essentially, and so you'll have colour illustrations all the way through the book. The change of name, slight change to the front cover, and that is going to be the way that all the rest of the books are going to look. So, yeah, I made a few changes so that all 9 books will look the same. It's going to be awesome. But anyway, the point of this is that I read you a chapter, and that's what I'm going to do. But it's not from Pixie Star and the Pocket Watch of Doom, it's just from The Pocket Watch of Doom. So without further ado, here's another chapter. Chapter 17, The Dreaded Kazulabloot. Sometime later, Hazel opened her eyes. "Quick, drink this," came Star's voice. She sat up, groaning from the pain in her arm, and sipped from the cup. The fairy nectar helped with the pain and cleared her head slightly. The driver of the giant forest mulching contraption was sitting close by. He was busy talking to his fingernails, occasionally looking up and smiling at them both with crossed eyes. "What happened? Did you stop the other machines?" she asked groggily. "Don't worry about that, they're dealt with. Where's Fandango? I've sent him ahead to find out what's going on at the school. Now, just rest for a moment. You've been banged around a bit. I've patched up your arm as best I can. I used up all the healing sparkles on our dislocated arms, I'm afraid. It's going to hurt a bit until we can get back to the fairy realm and get my mum to have a look at it, but nectar should help." The events of the last hour had been quite a shock, and she needed some answers. "What's happened here?" "They're building a runway, for aeroplanes," said Star. "What? Why?" "Not really sure. I think they're making this the new centre of world government. Here, have some food. The nectar will help with the shock, but you need some energy." He passed her some fairy bread. She slumped back against the metal wall of the huge machine and looked out over the destruction it had caused. "You said that the Pocket Watch of Doom had done worse than this, that it had destroyed worlds. How?" Star looked at her for a moment, wondering if she was ready for the secret that the fairy folk had been keeping for thousands of years. He wondered if he could trust her with it. He looked deep into her eyes. There was something different about this human. He'd never seen such courage in one so young. She didn't dawdle around in self-pity or think twice when it came to jumping into action, and above all, she was honest. She said what she meant. He dived into her eyes with his mind and found what he already knew to be true. This girl was special. He took a deep breath. "Maybe it's time I told you about the Kazulbloot." "The what?" She saw the heavy look on his face and it unnerved her. She'd been scared and almost driven mad during the adventure, without the slightest doubt that she wanted to be doing it all. Sure, she'd been upset and terrified, but deep down she knew she would never give up. Never back down from whatever was going to be thrown at her. But with the look of dread on Star's face, she was suddenly shaken by a dribble of doubt. "The Kazulbloot." Star looked down as he sighed a deep sigh. He looked back up and Hazel saw determination and fire in his eyes, like he needed all of his bravery just to talk about these things. These Kazulbloot. They came from a dark realm, a realm that is the complete opposite of the fairy realm. They're forever trying to cause havoc, and it's our job to try and stop them. Millions of years ago, when the many universes were trying to form, Back when it was all swirling fiery gases and exploding stars, it was said that the Kazulblut were born as two galaxies smashed into each other. The Kazulblut came from chaos and madness and loved destruction more than anything else. They had immense size and power and were like gods. Most realms, planets, and cultures have their own versions of them in their myths and stories. The human realm used to tell tales of giant marauding creatures when the earth was formed. Some people called them the Titans, others called them the Ice Giants, but they all had one goal: hullabaloo and ruin. All the stories were based on the Kazulblut. Once, many tens of thousands of years ago, the Kazulblut managed to do something that no other creature had ever done before. After an eternity of making their own realm as dark and terrible as they could, they found, entirely by accident, that they could cross over to other realms. This made them happy, as they could spread their vile hatred and fear over thousands, no, millions of worlds. That's when the first fairies started the fight against them. Somehow the realm of the fairies and its love of light, colour, joy, science and creation held the Kazulblut back just long enough for the fairy folk to escape and regroup. Back then the fairy realm had been made up of thousands of worlds, all full of bliss and radiance. After the invasion they were reduced to hundreds of planets, and that's when the wars began. The fairies found new ways to hold the Kazulblut at bay, and they fought them over thousands of realms, over thousands of years, until, finally, both sides had shrunk in number to a single planet each. The Kazulblut took on new forms. They became smaller. They made it easier to get around and cause harm without the fairies finding out about it. But the fairies adapted with them. They developed better ways of tracking them and keeping them under control. The wars ended, but the conflict never stopped. One day, 4,000 years ago, the fairies discovered the first ever Kazulblut magical object. The pocket watch of doom had been delivered by the Kazulblut to a planet on a far-off realm. The watch had whispered to people and made them do awful things. It had helped to destroy dozens of worlds before the fairy folk figured out what was going on. They captured it, imprisoned it, and guarded it. But the Kazulblut didn't rest, and they managed to break free. But during a small skirmish with the fairy folk, it went missing. The fairies and the Kazulblut both lost track of it until one day, a few hundred years ago, it found its way to the human realm, where it was placed in the hands of a great magician called Leonardo da Vinci. Somehow, maybe because of his genius mind, he could resist the voice of the watch and keep it under control. The fairy folk found the magician and saw that it was safer with him. Fairy folk call scientists, artists, and great thinkers magicians. They also call magicians magicians, which can be a bit confusing for some people. The magician handed it down to a younger magician on his deathbed. That magician did the same, and the following magician did the same again for centuries, until it found its way to the great magician Houdini. Houdini didn't believe he was going to die when he was taken to hospital with a terrible illness, and so, when he actually did die, there was no one to take control of the watch and hide it, and it vanished. When he actually did die, there was no one to take control of the watch and hide it, and it vanished. It disappeared in 1926. "So where has it been?" asked Hazel, her arm feeling much better, but her brain was a bit wonky from all of this new information. "Well, we don't know really. It looks like it was in the vault of some collector or something. I reckon the watch had been subdued for so long that it was just sleeping. That is, until it got stuck in the foot of a bubblegum troll and landed up there." Star pointed at the school. "A janitor named Ned Spindle found it in the grounds, and it's been whispering to him ever since. He has a plan to take over the world, and he's doing very well with it." "How are we going to stop him? I mean, we're only two people and a pink blob." Star smiled a broad and shining smile. "They'll never see us coming." Unfortunately, however, they had seen them coming, and it was precisely at that very moment that the forces of Ned Spindle's private army turned up to take them prisoner, some of them hovering on what looked like jetpacks, and others racing in from the forest in big military four-wheel drive vehicles. "You jinxed it," sighed Hazel with a frown, her eyes scanning over the dozens of people pointing guns at them from above and below. Yeah, I did a bit, didn't I? Said Star with a smirk. Little did Hazel know that jinxes weren't what she thought they were, and that Star was very good at them. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming along and listening to that chapter whatever it was, 17. And I'm going to be bringing out 18 next week. We're nearly coming to the end of this book, though, and after this book I'm going to be reading a book called Cowardly Frank, and that's not part of this series. I will be writing the next book in this series as I record the next season of the podcast. And this next season is going to be Cowardly Frank. It's about a kid who is scared all the time, and it's about him beating that with the help of a ghost, quite a grumpy gnome. He talks like that. He's quite grumpy. A vampire, and they go up against a very tall, horrible man called Sausage. So yes, that's it's a really pretty interesting book. That's coming up in the next season. Thanks again for coming by and having a listen. Really do appreciate it. Anything you can do to help would be fantastic. Go along to rufuscribbles.com, buy a book, buy some merch. I want to keep doing this for many years. Like, subscribe, share, and I can keep doing this for hopefully the rest of my life. That'd be lovely. All right, cheers guys, bye.